Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we are following the grim reality in a grief-stricken Hawaii. Residents are trying to move forward as troubling questions are emerging. Why, where were the warnings, the sirens? Why wasn't the power turned off? And why did the fire hydrants run dry? This is, we learn and see with our own eyes, the fight to survive in those initial moments that the inferno was spreading so rapidly. A mother and her two sons waiting in the water for 5 hours. People desperately clinging to a seawall. The fire raging just yards away. And of course, it was the wind that fueled this fire, the major gusts bending some power lines and breaking others. Tonight, the death toll stands at least 99 people, making it the deadliest wildfire in modern American history. The governor fears that number could double, saying we are prepared for many tragic stories. Whit Johnson reports once again from Maui.
Tonight, terrifying new video from what is now the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. People seen clinging to the Maui shoreline. You can hear the firestorm as it rips through historic Lahaina town. Denny Euchert stuck in traffic, capturing the howling winds, smoke and flames bearing down on him.
You can feel the heat off the traffic. It's just...
Denny, thinking he wouldn't survive, said his final goodbyes.
My dad, my mom, my son David, I love you all.
Speaking with our Melissa Adan.
I could honestly say I've been through hell and back, and thank God they didn't want me.
For many in Lahaina, jumping into the ocean was their only escape from those 1,000-degree flames devouring a mile every minute.
You're gonna be okay, Milo.
19-year-old Noah Tonkinson, along with his mother and younger brother, waiting in the water for 5 hours.
We're through the worst of it. We're gonna be okay.
The family of Joe Schilling, known locally as Uncle Joe, says they believe he died trying to help his neighbors, sharing the last photos they received from him, showing homes, his too, about to go up in flames.
Always, there isn't anybody in the family or who knew Joe that would be surprised that he would put himself at risk to help somebody else.
Authorities have not publicly released the names of any of the victims, but tonight it's clear the death toll will keep rising.
They will find 10 to 20 people per day probably until they finish. And it's probably going to take 10 days. It's impossible to guess, really.
With hundreds still unaccounted for, officials urging survivors to provide DNA samples to help identify the dead.
The wind is making it worse.
And questions tonight about why the utility company, despite warnings, failed to cut the power, raising the risk that down electric lines could spark more fires. Power lines toppling like matchsticks.
Ina, were there moments when you feared for your life?
Yeah, a few.
Firefighter Ina Kohler worked desperately with her colleagues to protect homes, even as they watched their own homes burn to the ground.
What are you going to do? We got to keep going. It's our duty.
Her husband, Johnny Verona, also a firefighter, had to evacuate with their 2 kids that day, but was able to listen to his wife's voice on his radio.
It was actually incredibly relieving to hear her voice.
Ina and her crew using hoses to douse the flames until she says the hydrants went dry.
I felt the hose line coming in from the hydrant, the intake line, and it was soft.
So,
and I was like, there's no pressure. There's no water.
So the hydrant ran out of water?
Dry. Yeah.
We reached out to the water company. No response so far. Ina says they're among the 17 of 18 firefighters who lived in Lahaina and lost their homes, but still reporting to work, answering the call.
They've been at work every single day.
Yeah,
they're going in for overtime because what else are you going to do? I can't just sit at home and cry.
So admirable what they and so many others there are doing. And Whit joins us now from Maui. Whit, we see that wind really whipping out there. And we know that the governor just approved a review of the emergency response. What will that entail?
Lindsay, they plan to review a number of things, including what happened before, during, and after the fires. And tonight, there are growing questions about the island's warning alert system. Authorities say it was not activated at a time when it was needed most. Lindsay?
Whit Johnson for us in Maui once again tonight. Thanks, Whit. For the fire survivors who survived but managed to lose their homes, the struggle to find the basic necessities is really starting to take a toll, and frustration is growing with the pace of the government response. ABC's Gio Benitez has a look.
Tonight, growing concern for the thousands who lost everything in this now apocalyptic scene on Maui.
You see everybody laying there in a cot or their air mattress or something, and it's pretty heartbreaking.
Residents in Lahaina and areas of Upper Kula have been advised to not drink or even boil water, told to use bottled water and limit their shower time. And many frustrated after Maui police suspended a placard program which allowed access into Lahaina.
I'm trying to get in to go see my house and I can't even go see it.
Over the weekend, the head of FEMA with the governor of Hawaii examining the devastation, promising they're in it for the long haul.
I want the people of Maui to know that, Governor, we're going to be with you every step of the way.
But some saying the government response is just not fast enough. Our Mary Bruce pressing FEMA today.
Has the federal government been able to fulfill every request that the state has made so far?
We continue to work with the governor and his team to better understand what they need, and as soon as they make a request, we get that request in process.
The administration saying they have over 300 FEMA staff on the ground and have provided over 50,000 meals and 75,000 liters of water, saying they're also opening avenues for the displaced to move out of shelters and into hotels. Here at King's Cathedral, they've opened an emergency shelter, turning church pews into beds. You're keeping this open 24 hours. You're not turning anyone away.
No, we're not. But we're also finding places for them. So our heart is that we would find places, and we're looking forward to the next few months and years, and we're trying to come up with solutions.
Gio Benitez joins us now from one of those donation centers. Gio, what are you seeing there?
Well, Lindsay, so many people from all walks of life, they're coming through these donation centers and they're giving anything they can. Here at King's Cathedral, where you just met the pastor, the greatest need here, cooking supplies. Lindsay.
Interesting need. Okay. Our Gio Benitez, our thanks to you. As we hear the reports of Maui's catastrophic loss and the long road to recovery ahead, many are asking why the U.S. military isn't doing more to aid in the emergency response. I'm joined now by Pentagon's Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh to address that and more. Ms. Singh, thank you so much for talking with us. Just take us through what resources the U.S. military currently has deployed to aid Hawaii.
Hi, Lindsay. Well, thanks so much again for having me on today. We have about 250 Air and Army National Guard on the ground helping with search and recovery rescue missions. We've also had our Army National Guard air crew deliver about 180,000 gallons of water that have been dropped over the fires in the last 48 hours. So this is really a coordinated effort. This is an interagency effort, and we are tightly knitted with FEMA and the state of Hawaii in any type of response. And we will continue to be helpful as we are asked by FEMA and Hawaii.
Hawaii is home to some 40,000 active duty troops. Is it true that none of them have been sent to the disaster?
Well, I will say again, this is being coordinated directly by FEMA. When we have been asked and called up for help right now, it is through the National Guard. Hawaii is a deeply important community to the United States military. Of course, if there are other efforts or other requests for help, we will be there and with no questions asked. And I would say that Secretary Austin just this past week spoke to Senators Hirono and Schatz, pledging his full support for the community. But again, this is a coordinated effort that's being directly run by FEMA, and so we are responding as we are requested to respond.
What about evacuations? That's been left to the commercial airlines so far. Why isn't the military helping out there?
Well, of course, we would be happy to help out, but again, these are requests and everything is being sort of routed through FEMA, which is the coordinating agency on this. If we are asked to conduct flights to help the community, to help families evacuate Hawaii, of course we would do that. Right now we are setting up emergency areas where people can go and be reunited with their family members. But again, we have 250 personnel on the ground right now that are closely working with the state of Hawaii, closely working with FEMA officials to help with search and rescue operations and also helping put out these fires that continue to rage in the state. So of course, if we are offered or if we are asked to do more, we certainly will. But FEMA is really leading this coordinated effort, which is an interagency effort, and we are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
If FEMA does request more from the Pentagon, how quickly could those resources actually be on the ground?
The incredible thing about the United States military is that we can get places pretty quickly. And as you mentioned, we have a robust presence in Hawaii. So I think we'd be able to fleet in resources pretty quickly if needed.
While we understand the need for coordination and proper planning, for the people who are living through this disaster, as you can understand, every day, hour can feel like weeks. How do you explain the pace of the response to those who may be saying this is just taking too long and what FEMA is doing is not adequate?
Well, you know, unfortunately, I can't speak on behalf of FEMA. I know that this administration is taking this seriously. We're talking about our American citizens out there, our friends and families, our colleagues who are being impacted by these fires. And so on behalf of the department, I can say that we hear you, we see you, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that this community recovers. And right now, what we are doing and what we are providing the people of Hawaii is a lot of search and rescue help, which will be needed in the community for not just today, but the foreseeable future. And so if we are asked by FEMA to commit more resources, more people, more personnel, that is something that the Secretary is committed to doing and that this administration is committed to doing.
Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you.
Still much more to get to here on Prime. We go by the number.